Now, joining us with his analysis of the markets moving forward, the activity at midday is Sean Culverwell from Anchor Capital. Sean, hi, good to chat to you once again. That inflation figure, slightly up for South Africa, but not bad. Like the Reserve Bank governor said, we're all on track.
Yeah, our in-house economist called the print relatively uneventful, just showing, inflation remains well contained and comfortably within the SARB's target band. So the market's pricing in another 25 basis point cut on the 29th of Jan. I don't think this print will do anything to shift those expectations. Then, as you said, Kanyago's comments in Davos looked also supportive of that.
Yeah, interesting stuff. All right, so maybe we'll have that interest rate decrease soon. Karooooo's Q3 results, you would have heard in our news bulletin there. What's your take?
Yeah, it was a good result. I think after their second quarter numbers, there were some concerns that growth was slowing down, but these results did come in a lot better than expected. And I think the important thing is that it appears as if their investments into distribution and marketing are really taking hold. So you saw that acceleration in net subscriber additions, and then recurring revenue growth also accelerated. But the one thing to point out, is that those investments don't come cheap. So as you go down the income statement, revenue up 20, operating profit up 14, and earnings up 11. But they're playing, they're doing this for the long haul, and they've got a long-term vision.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's another positive that they kept their earnings guidance for the full year maintained, and that's currently ahead of where consensus numbers are. So a very good quarter for Karooooo.
Yeah. Well, talking about Quilter now it's interesting because there have been some headwinds in the UK. They've also got the inflation figure as well. I think it's also up as well, if I remember correctly. Now, Quilter, they're also doing relatively well. In fact, doing very well.
Yeah, so there were some concerns going into this print about the uncertainty around the UK budget and what it would, the impact it would have on client activity. But they've just recorded their highest quarterly net flow for the year at about £2.4 billion. So that's up 5% quarter on quarter, but 7%, it's up 7% of opening AUM on an annualized basis. And that's important because their long-term goal is to drive net inflows of about 5% of opening AUM. So business momentum is very solid. Also with AUM ahead of what the market was expecting, in this closing period, you'll probably see analysts revise their numbers for 2026 upwards. With that positive revision, a good sign for the stock.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They've got a huge book as well. Speaking of a huge book, there's Coronation, and your thoughts?
So Coro is a bit different to Quilter, where Quilter has inflows and good market performance. Coro, their AUM performance is almost entirely driven by the market's movement. So they added about 110 billion of AUM in the last 12 months. It's a very solid result, but likely a continuation of the strong market return we saw last year, not net inflows from clients.
Yeah. Right, Sean, let's look internationally. Now we have Davos and Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, having a sterling speech overnight, ripping into Donald Trump. Donald Trump, he's on his way to Davos. He had to turn his plane around, though, because they had some electrical fault. But he is going with this big delegation. What is your take on all of this? It continues to affect markets. You see what happened in Asia this morning?
Yeah, I think, as you said, he will be talking tonight, and we'll see what he says. But if any of the previous tariff tantrums are anything to go by, the best thing you can do for now is just sit on your hands and don't make too many rash decisions. Also, another thing I'd like to just point out, after the Liberation Day sell-off we saw last year in April, similar to what we're seeing now, Trump blinked when the bond market blinked. And last night, the US bond market showed some weakness, and keeping a lid on long bond yields has frequently been communicated as the clear focus point for this administration. So he may come out guns blazing tonight, but I think if you see a further spike in bond yields, we'll see whether his bluff is called or not.
You see, this is the thing, Sean. It's going to escalate and it's going to escalate. We've had Emmanuel Macron. He's the president of France with his sunglasses on. He says it's an eye condition, but I think it's him also telling Trump, we're closed for business, stop this now. This is going to escalate. I mean, where do you see this going?
Yeah, so I mean, if you try to pick out a pattern of Trump's, tariff escalation, there is something that seems to come out. So it typically starts with an outlandish demand and then waits for a reaction. We've got a reaction from the European leaders, and then based on that reaction, he will escalate further if required, which is what we're seeing now. I think once the parties, what generally comes after that is that the parties both sit down, a resolution is eventually, comes to pass, because they understand that the tit-for-tat tariffs are mutually destructive. So it's a bargaining strategy that he uses and has been using over the last, 18 months. But I think, it's too early to discern how much further this can go.
Yeah, but it's interesting. We're about to speak to the Electricity Minister, José Enzo Ramahopa, on the show. And of course, we've got our own delegation there as well. It's got to be interesting because on the one side, you've got the United States, you've got Europe on the other side, and then you've got South Africa, which up until now has not been too welcome with the US. I think it's going to be quite tense.
Yeah, it will be tense, and I think everyone's going to be waiting for that plane to land tonight. And there's going to be a lot of angst around that. I'm locked in on this year's Davos meeting and watching with some keen interest.
Right. Sean, what's your stock pick today? What are you looking at?
So my stock pick is Clicks. So Clicks has had a little rally recently, but we still think the valuation is quite attractive for what we believe is one of the most defensive retailers in the country. The management team's track record is exceptional, and all the key drivers of the business are progressing nicely. There may be perhaps some concerns that Dis-Chem's new rewards program and rampant promotional activity may be taking share, but I think it's important to note that Clicks has the leading loyalty program in the country and have navigated a highly, highly competitive retail market successfully for decades. So we think Clicks is a high quality counter that doesn't give many buying opportunities, and we feel that at the current price you have one.
Nice. There we go. Thank you so much, Sean. Appreciate you taking the time. That was Sean Culverwell from Anchor Capital.